everybody. Welcome to the Christmas Pulse. Actually, it's the week before Christmas, the pre-Christmas, the pre-holiday Pulse. I don't know. We haven't talked about it yet. We may take the next 2 weeks off for the holidays. Probably will. Just declared, we're taking the next 2 days off for the holidays. Happy holidays, everyone. This is the last show of 2021. Here we are bringing you the updates. So we will get started. I'm going to pass it to Tamara this week. She gets to go first. Woohoo! Let us know what is in development back at the Sausage Factory, getting made by Microsoft.
All right, there's a couple things to talk about, but I won't take them all. But I'll take Vizio for 500, Bob.
There might be 500 Vizio updates.
There just about are. So Vizio, draw shape tool in Vizio for the web. So the new draw shape tool in Vizio for the web enables users to draw rectangles, squares, lines, circles, and ellipses at the preferred size and location within their diagrams. So this gives you a little more flexibility. And then also, this I'm so happy about. And it is the Vizio Format Painter in Vizio for the web. So you can copy the formatting from any source object on the canvas and apply it to a destination object in a single click. This way you can have consistency throughout your diagram. So I'm really happy about that. And then also, Visio Grid and Snap to grids in Vizio for the web. So you can align your shapes visually using grids and choose to snap them to grids. So, but that we're going to have to wait until February to come out. The other two are coming out in December and January. So Vizio got some love this term.
I like one. Well, I'm going to just take one for now. Microsoft Teams user request flows for blocked apps. So this is going to enable users to discover Teams apps in the App Store and then request approval from the administrators before they get to install it. So this is like the best of both worlds. Makes things discoverable, but then they have to ask permission. So instead of just letting them install, they at least have a flow. So maybe not.
I know so many admins that are going to hate this.
It's better than just letting them discover and do it.
So, no, but most of them want to not let them discover stuff they don't want them to have.
Well, they can still turn off the store. I mean, this is not, this is still used. Admins, if admins had a perfect world, there would be no end users.
Oh no, I have a job because admins don't have a perfect world. I'm okay with that.
I get this. End users would carry pads of paper and not touch their computers, and then the admins would have a perfect day. You
say that like it's bad, Jennifer.
But yeah. So that was one thing I thought was a good compromise. It's like, the farmer and the cowman, they can be friends. A little Oklahoma reference there.
We want real people on that one.
The reference to the musical, not the state.
Okay.
All right, Tom, I'll pass it to you.
Trying to put us back on the street again. I'll go next. So SharePoint, new content scenarios for my feed web part and SharePoint. So the my feed web part was kind of nice for you to be able to flag things and, let them come to you, or you could just see the things that were pertinent to you. They've added some additional new content types for that. The new contents are suggested tasks, people highlights, meetings out of routine, and files shared in groups. So I'm assuming there's a lot of AI baked into this kind of stuff behind the scenes, so it can figure out why is it suggesting this is a task that belongs to you, or how do I know this meeting is out of my routine? So this is something that is set for, it's in development, set for December of this year. Good luck, they don't have a lot of time left there. The other one that I will touch on real quickly before we hand it over to Geekville and Adam, because there's a lot of Geekville stuff here. Microsoft Teams, universal actions and refresh support for user-sent cards. So if you're using adaptive cards, they're now known as universal actions for adaptive cards. It brings the bot as the common backend for handling actions and introduces a new action type, Action Execute, which works across apps such as Teams and Outlook. This lights up the following new capabilities on Teams, which is universal actions, user-specific views, sequential workflow supports, up-to-date views. So basically what this amounts to is you're going to have the ability to do a lot more with these adaptive cards that you have out there and be able to update them and get information into those cards, from what I understand, even beyond the point of, okay, I've got it out there, but now I need to go update it. I can have the ability to do those kind of things. So that's something that if you're interested in it, it should be coming out December of this year, and we'll see what it looks like at that point.
All right, so
That,
on to
knock yourself
Geekville.
out.
I will not talk about all the stuff. There's a lot of updates in here that are incremental things related to like advanced discovery of specific features and stuff like that that aren't really that significant. There are two things I wanted to call out though that I do think have the breadth to potentially be largely impactful. And they're both things that are now becoming available for the government cloud space that historically haven't been there before. The first one is the ability in Teams for admins to be able to assign sensitivity label support for the government cloud. So what that basically means is if you are using sensitivity labels to, I don't know, mark CUI information or something like that, you'll actually have the ability to go through and associate Teams with those sensitivity labels as well too. This takes you forward with the creation of stuff like, it's fairly common with my partners when I'm going through and working with them. They'll say, okay, well, if you're working with something that you know is classified information, then you need to put that in this certain location, and then we'll, put sensitivity labels on it that dictate how we behave with the sharing and collaboration of that data. You can now do that in Teams in the government space, which is nice. You've been able to do that to SharePoint sites themselves in the past, as well as like DLP policies. And the other one that they started doing, which is technical, so I'm not going to get too deep into it, I'll just explain in English what it is. It's Microsoft Defender for endpoint discovery for Microsoft Defender for endpoint. Essentially what this means is if you use Microsoft Defender for endpoint, there's a tool set inside of there that you can install to do discovery on your own internal network look for endpoints that are working and functioning on your network that are not currently being managed by Microsoft Defender under the policies that you have. Obviously, for different reasons, this could be a good thing for a company, and they're trying to make sure that they're securing down their own data and following compliance standards and things like that. So essentially what this allows you to do is go in and say, all right, are there any computers out there I don't know about that are connecting and using our resources that aren't currently being managed by our organization? And this is a tool that allows you to do that. So making that available in the Gov space is obviously nice.
Cool. Well, if those are all the updates there, we can move to rolling out. Rolling out means it has started to hit the different tenants in different phases. I actually am going to pass this one to the team. There's not a lot of updates in this one, so I'm going to let them take them so I don't steal anyone's. So I'm going to pass it to Tom. He's anxiously going for it. So
I want to do.
You go for it, Tom. Tom and Tamara, I'm not going to steal any of yours this time. You guys let it roll.
I'm just going to steal Tamara's, so that's fine.
I'm cool with
that. You don't have to live with the ramifications in that situation. So in Microsoft Teams, there's two out there that are nice that are in the rolling out stage. I'm looking forward to seeing these. One is end-to-end encryption option for Teams one-on-one voice over IP calls. So now if you're making those direct calls to somebody, you're going to be able to have that end-to-end encryption. So again, it puts another layer of security in these conversations that you're having to make sure that people are not able to tap into them and hear them. All they're going to hear is a bunch of jumbled mess because it's all encrypted. So that's rolling out. It says December of this year. So hopefully that's pretty close to being completely rolled out. And it's set for worldwide and GCC. The other one, which is kind of a cute thing, and I'm thinking it's not bad here, that is Microsoft Teams Press to Unmute. So instead of you having to dig around and go, oh my God, where's my mute button? Nah, I can't find it. Is it on my headset? Whatever. What you can do now, if you're in a meeting and you just temporarily want to unmute yourself, you can either do Control Space in Windows or Option Space in Mac OS to speak. So again, it's real easy just to do Control Space bar, blah, 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 let go, and you're back on mute again. You don't have to worry about what am I touching on my headset that may or may not mute me or hang me up if I'm not careful, or trying to find the things across the top of the screen icon-wise. So I think that's going to be something that's going to work out really nice for people once they get that muscle memory in their fingers. Again, this is set for December, so it should be close to, if not already rolled out to a client near you, and it's for worldwide and GCC.
This is going to be really important when it gets to DoD and GCC High. I have a lot of clients who are in environments where they can't have live microphones and they have to have push-to-talk microphones. So it's not that the microphone is always live and then you mute it. It's that you actually have to push a button to talk.
Okay.
So this will really help in those push-to-talk scenarios, I think.
Exactly. It's a good point.
And then two other Teams things to point out is chat with Teams personal account users. So, you know, the free version that you can get. So team users will be able to chat with team members who are outside their work network and have Teams personal accounts. So this is expanding on the external access capabilities and enabling Teams users to invite for one-on-one or group chat any other federated team user using an email address or phone number and remain within the security and compliance policies of their organization. So this is rolling out to the commercial version this month. And then we'll wait to see that in GCC, GCC High. And
who's going to be the first one on the team to accidentally teach their mom how to use Teams?
We will not be having that lesson. Text is enough. So
I've already tried to do that with my dad.
How'd that go?
Not great. So when I was in college, I had bought a LogMeIn account. So that way I could, like, if my parents had problems, I could just take over their computer and do stuff. And was kind of trying to do that with Teams, but you can't take over someone's computer with Teams. So then it was me eventually getting my dad into Teams and, like, me trying to walk him through watching him with his cursor. And, like, I probably lost 5 years of my life doing it.
No, up, no, back.
It was not great.
Warmer.
Yeah.
Oh, too funny.
And then the only other thing to point out is in Microsoft Teams is that you're going to be able to configure your activity feed notifications. And this is coming out for GCC High, DoD, Worldwide, and GCC. And users will be able to control the type of notifications that appear in their activity feed. So you can right-click on the feed item, and then you'll be able to turn on or off all reactions or stop specific app notifications from surfacing in the activity feed. I use my activity feed all the time, and there gets to be a lot of noise in there and a lot of stuff that you have to go through. So being able to control those notifications and what shows up in that activity feed, I think is a really big step forward.
Okay,
Adam, what do you have?
Gale us with Compliance Center stuff.
So yeah, I'm only going to do one here again. We don't need to go too deep into stuff. One thing that I thought was cool. Wow, I can't speak English. One thing that was interesting, they announced that they're going to be adding information barriers for GCC High and DoD. I actually have worked with a company that's used information barriers before. How information barriers work, you essentially set it up as a compliance feature that actually restricts communication and collaboration between certain groups of people inside of your tenant. And so I actually worked with a company that legally had to separate out salespeople from support people for whatever reason. And so they wanted to actually physically put a barrier in place that wouldn't allow those people to communicate directly together. and went through and used information barriers to do it. That's now coming available to GCC High and DoD. I'm sure there are reasons in the government space that have organizations that need to keep certain groups separate on different types of information. So this is a way that they can still coexist inside of the same tenant, but you can ensure that you're not messing up or breaking the rules or anything like that. So it's kind of cool. That's it. That's all I'm doing.
Well, moving to launched, this means it is already out there and it exists. One that I think that is just fantastic, because back in the day, we used to always try to figure out a way to make it so without doing it, but that would be list comments built on SharePoint. So if you have a comment on a list, it's not really part of the list item, but it's a comment on the list item. And so now that's just something that's natively part of the system. So I think that's fantastic. So that's great. And that is now just there, it just works. So that makes me super happy. So very cool. That's my contribution to the section. How about you, Tom?
Didn't have a whole lot. Again, lots of compliance stuff that we'll leave for Adam, because I'm sure he'd get bored otherwise. The only thing I saw in here that really popped out at me was Whiteboard storage in OneDrive for Business. So it used to be when you do Whiteboard, it stored it out in Azure somewhere, and it was kind of its own little weird world. Now, when you're using Whiteboard content, it's all going to be stored in your OneDrive area. So much like when you do recordings of meetings, they can be stored in your OneDrive. You're finding more and more things are starting to head out to your OneDrive area, which on one hand is nice because it's treated like all your other SharePoint files can be. I'm still not thrilled with the fact that they're doing all this stuff in OneDrive, because I know people are going to share stuff that is team critical, and the person's going to leave the company and everybody's going, where did it all go? It's gone. So that's going to be something that you're going to have to be careful with as more and more stuff gets moved to OneDrive. Got to watch it when people leave and make sure that they're not losing everything that others have counted on for however long the person's been here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Then, Tamara, I know there's some that you like in here.
Yeah, there's two for GCC High. One is breakout room presenter support for GCC High, which means it extends the management of breakout rooms to specific presenters. So not just the organizer has to do the breakout rooms. So the presenters can do it and move from breakout room to breakout room. And then I got really excited about
But wait,
this
there's
one.
more.
Really excited. Up to 25,000 members per team in GCC High. I'm really excited about that.
I remember when we used to laugh.
Huge teams,
You
but
don't know you need a team with 25,000 people until you need
it. Yeah.
with 25,000 people. That's all I can say about that.
I remember when they upped it to 5,000, we were like, why in the world would you ever want to have a team of 5,000 people? Now it's like, oh yeah, we can handle 5,000, not a problem.
Well, one of the key reasons that I found at one of the clients that I'm supporting is the champions group. The champions group got so large, and even people who weren't champions wanted to join the champions team so they could ask questions of the champions. And they could get the champions' answers. So this is going to be great for stuff like that.
Yeah. And at this customer, it's a significantly large customer. So when you say you need more than 5,000, that's still just a very small percentage of the customer. Exactly. So it makes sense. Makes sense. So, all right. Well, Adam, what do you have in launched?
So I'm going to be good again. I'm only going to talk about a couple. As Tom said, there is a ton in here. A lot of the stuff that we've talked about over the last couple of months about communication compliance and all the stuff with that, you're starting to see move to launch. So if you care about that stuff, we encourage you to look at the updated list of features and go through and get an idea of stuff that's going through and launched. But the couple that I wanted to talk about, I think are tentatively pretty cool. I'm going to combine two of them together and talk about them. The Exchange Online Monitoring Preview Update. This is essentially a new experience that they're designing to go in the new Exchange Admin Center to basically give you a all-inclusive one-stop view of what's happening with your Exchange Online health. So the idea is supposed to be if you're someone who's in charge in email hygiene of what's going on with your organization, this is going to give you basically a dashboard or a view you can go through and look at, and it will say, how are you doing? Is everything going well? Are there any problems you should look at? I'm interested to see how this functions. As someone who's done email support and Exchange for so long, everything's all kind of spread out right now, and if you know what you're doing, great. But if you don't, and you ever work with someone who doesn't have that background, it's kind of overwhelming. I'm interested to see how good of a job this does of kind of making it a one-stop shop for people. And then they also had another one that was kind of similar. It wasn't necessarily specifically related to this like one-stop shop view, but they have Microsoft Defender for Office 365 email entity page. So this is almost a Defender specific version of what we were talking about. Defender's obviously, everything got rebranded Microsoft Defender to kind of go through and help out what you're doing. Microsoft Defender for 365 specifically became what advanced threat protection was, doing stuff like safe links and safe attachments and things like that, some of the fish things you could do in there. The idea behind Microsoft Defender email entity page for 365 is again going to be a page you can go to that gives you a look on everything that's potentially going wrong in your organization. So not necessarily just problems with delivery, but if you're investigating potential, negative email that has come out or spam or threats that you've had, again, giving you this like one-stop view to where you can use that as a central source to kind of coordinate what's going on in the world of email security specifically. So we're talking about Defender here. So it looks like in both of those instances, the Microsoft and the Exchange Online team are working to create tools that kind of present everything you need to know in a more convenient way, which I think is a good policy and a good stance to have. But knowing how complex it is, I'm interested in both of those cases to see how it plays out. So they're now launched. I should, I assume, be able to go through and get an understanding of that. So that's something I'll be checking out over the next couple of weeks, which I think is kind of cool. And then the other thing I wanted to point out that I thought was actually kind of cool when you're going through and looking at what options you had was this is something personal for me, but Microsoft Information Protection UI for configuring exact data match. So I went through and piloted out an EDM or exact data match deployment earlier this year for one of our customers that was a hospital. And exact data match is really cool. It's the idea of you actually protecting the physical records that you have. So instead of going through and looking for algorithms of healthcare information, a hospital could upload their actual patient records and then know for certain that they're not leaking that patient information externally. It was super cool. It was very complicated to deploy. It was very complicated to get into all the tools. And so I loved the technology. That was one of the aha moments for me. I have those every 2 or 3 years with Office 365 where something comes out which is like, wow, that is effing cool. It's really neat that technology has gotten to this stance. But I can tell you from doing it, it was complicated as all get up to actually go through and do. So the fact that they're actually going to be giving you a view where you can see everything before, even when you went through and configured it, which involved a whole bunch of PowerShell and stuff on the back end, it then just kind of looked like other sensitive information types. It was hard to tell that, no, this is what I did for specifically for exact data match. So the fact that they're actually creating stuff inside of the portal for a view of, no, this is the EDM stuff, I think is definitely a step in the right direction and makes it more approachable for organizations to consider doing it.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, there's one more in launch that I think is great. I've had a few customers in the GCC space mention it to me as something that they've started to see, and that is their attendance reports. So attendance reports in Teams meetings are now showing up. We've had them for a while in the commercial, and now they're showing up in GCC, so that's there. And then to wrap us up, we have 3 things in the canceled category. Nothing too big on the Vizio side. There's 2 things there. Email notifications for @mentions, not going away, not really being canceled, just being removed because it's a duplicate. And then new capabilities in Vizio for the web. It's being removed because it's actually being replaced by 4 or 5 different individual items. So all those different things that are now in development in Vizio that we said, holy cow, there's 4 or 5 things in development in Vizio. That's because they took this one that says, hey, we're doing new things on the web for Vizio and broke it out into 4 or 5 different things instead of just calling it new. So we often do see that happen. And that's why we see things canceled. The last one that we're seeing on the list is View Planner Task on your Outlook calendar for GCC, GCC High, and DoD. This one is being postponed, and they'll let us know when a timeline is confirmed. This one's more serious. This one means not getting done right now, most likely because that's the crossing of the streams. We don't do that. We've seen Ghostbusters. So
that I want to see for planner for GCC, GCC High, and DoD is email the person when they're assigned a task. It doesn't work in those environments. It only works in commercial. It is so infuriating.
Infuriating, I know.
Where's that? Yeah,
It makes you as
infuriating, not
red as your
infuriating,
sweater.
which is not a word.
But so the planner task, that one is postponed indefinitely. So that one, that's, if you were waiting for that, you're going to be waiting a lot longer. That's getting removed from the roadmap to be returned later. So those are our updates this week. Unless the team can convince me that we're going to do sessions for the rest of the year, this is it for 2021. Woo! Yay! And we will be back in 2022. We will continue to do our newsletter for the next 2 weeks. And then we look forward to seeing you guys in the next year. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you
Bye,
soon.
everyone.
Happy New Year,
Happy
everybody.
holidays.